Alright, so for those of you just tuning in, we're about to spectate another free-for-all diplomacy game on the map Texas between my viewers, which is, of course, part of my weekly Twitch TV live streams. And if you're interested, I'd love to have you. Feel free to head on over here. You can find a link on the screen or in the video description, and my live stream schedule is on my Twitch page, so just head there and scroll underneath the player, and you can find my schedule there. Thank you so much, Echo, for the sub. Really appreciate it. So we're doing Texas, and this map is ridiculous. It's actually an island in the shape of Texas that's infested with jaguars and extra boars, and this map is pretty ridiculous. And we're doing King of the Hill, of course, as well, which means the player that holds the center monument when the timer hits 0 is the one who wins. Players are able to form alliances with each other, but only one player may win in the end, and that's the one who controls the monument. Alright, GLHF, everybody. Let's jump straight into this. Now, I've been doing a lot of these, of course, since they've been very popular. And, of course, I'm always interested in your guys' suggestions for future settings, so let me know, as always, if you've been enjoying these and you want me to do more, I'd be happy to. I've got a ton of these on my YouTube channel if this is the type of thing you enjoy. Hello, Advanced. Now let's see if we load in, and we did! Well, that was bizarrely easy, so yes! Oh, this map never ceases to crack me up. Look at this. Yes, just like in real life, Texas is, of course, an island in the middle of the ocean. Full of all sorts of exotic wildlife, turkeys, boars, deer, you name it, and more jaguars than you could possibly imagine, as soon as I can actually find some. But, yeah, there's actually a ridiculous amount of... They're actually... Oh, wow, they're actually wolves this time. Didn't they used to be jaguars? I swear. No, there's wolves and jaguars. Okay, so... Texas, of course, being the wildlife sanctuary that we all know and love. So many extra boars here, and I do believe this is supposed to be the capital. That's super cute. Covered in turkeys. Here's their center hill. So when a player has a unit that walks right next to this hill, it's going to start the timer. I believe it starts at 550 years, and then it will continue ticking down, and whoever holds this at the end is the one who wins. Now, let's say there are 50 years left on the map, on the timer, and then someone switches ownership, like the person who holds this has lost all of his units there, and now it becomes your hill. Then the timer will reset to 100 years. These free-for-all diplomacy games are generally very entertaining to watch because they're full of all sorts of backstabbing and betrayals, as people will be shuffling alliances around like crazy, desperately trying to hold the center monument for just a little while. Ah, awesome, Flapjack. He says, watching Resonance 22 and playing Pokemon Red. That is awesome. Von Wageningen says, do you know how team bonuses work on free-for-all settings? I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they apply only when you're both allied with each other, I think. Anyway, so let's go check out the civilizations for all the players here. So it looks like Zeit and Clang. I'll be referring to players in general by their player color for simplicity's purposes. So Zeit and Clang is going to be the red Ethiopians versus Permitted Zebra, the green Huns, and then we have W6 playing as the yellow Japanese, although I think you wanted me to say his name was Wee6. And then we have the Kind of Juice playing as the teal Malians, Blood Raven playing as the purple Slavs, K Sunny as the blue Byzantines, and Ulrich playing as the orange Byzantines. So, oh, double Byzantines action here. We have a reasonable variety of civs, which I like. Now, of course, when it comes to forming alliances, it's going to be really difficult for me to keep track of them, so you can assume for the most part that if you're holding the hill and the timer is below 100 years, that everybody is on a team against you. So, you know, players can be allied with one another, but not with each other. So, for example, yellow could be on a team with red, and red could be on a team with yellow. So, I'm going to be doing my best to keep track of it, but for the most part, we'll be able to tell what players' alliances are based off their actions. Moonsheep says, I've been playing against your AI to learn the game. What difficulty can I start playing online? Probably moderate. I think it's fine. I've got all this stuff in the fact file, which you might find helpful to check out. It's on the Steam Workshop page. Tiny Gold Rush would be really snowbally hard-style strategies. Sinzo says, will you ever play this yourself? I mean, I've considered it, and people ask me that a lot, but if I'm playing in the free-for-all game, then it's not really much of a... I don't think it would be nearly as interesting to watch, because you can only see it from my perspective. So most of the map is going to be black, and it's really just going to be a crippled 1v1 or 2v1. Pretty solid war lure here from Permitted Zebra. Will allow him to bolster a little bit of his economy, but he has to be a little bit careful about that one turkey that's decaying. Good to see him assign his villagers onto that turkey. That way he doesn't really waste that much food. The player spawns are very ridiculous on Texas, especially for our poor friend Mr. Purple, who appears to be surrounded on all sides, actually, by opposing players. So if Bloodraven would like to survive and win this game, then perhaps he's going to have to make friends with everybody, because he is adjacent to orange on the right. Above him, he has blue. To the left, he has yellow. And right below him, he has red. So hopefully none of those are a hostile party. And it looks like he is on the same team with teal, orange, and red. So he's getting there, but he's going to have to deal with a lot of enemies in close proximity. Polar says, I'm a French fan, love your videos. Thank you, glad to hear it. As purple is in a terrible position. No problem, Moonsheep. Torminator says, do you know any custom AI that's stronger than the HD AI and works with 4.6 African kingdoms? Unfortunately, the AI engine in Aoe2 HD is very, very limited, so... Resonance Bot's more challenging, but that's only because on hard and hardest it receives a little bit of free resources, and it has to be challenging, otherwise, the engine is so limited that there's no way to actually make it harder than the default AI without making it have some cheats, but I assure you, it is absolutely balanced, and that hardest is intended for top-rated HD players, so that's what it's balanced for. As I mentioned, Porglet, I think the purple is the most absurd position on the map. Welcome, TK the PK and Ron's Coup. So when it comes to general strategy in this free-for-all, again, I think it's going to come down to players wanting to spend the early game trying to secure alliances with players who are, geographically convenient for them. Because here's the thing, is that for purple, any sort of enemy that is close to him, he's going to want to make sure that he is friends with as many people who are adjacent to him as possible, except for maybe one. And then if he can kill one of these players, then he has one flank that's just going to feel a little bit safer for him. It doesn't really make much sense, for example, for red to ally with teal, because they're so far apart from each other that the alliance is almost inconsequential. They're very rarely going to interact with each other in the early game. They won't be able to defend each other, so the alliance is almost pointless. Whereas, for example, any alliance the purple can secure with an adjacent teammate, such as red who's right behind him, that's fantastic, will be very, very helpful in the long run. In general, though, since this map is relatively cramped, I would expect players to go for some form of early aggression against each other, but the early game isn't necessarily going to decide the game. What's really going to matter is, again, the player that actually controls the center monument at the end of the game. And one thing I think a lot of new players do is that they generally forget that it's King of the Hill towards the end. They just tunnel vision at other people. There's a happy balance between remembering that you're actually capable in King of the Hill of attacking other players, and also understanding that you need the hill to win the game. That's a close call here from purple, but he does manage to take down that boar. And this game should be a little bit faster than normal too, because players have all these additional boars. And right now, purple has a very heavy food economy. He's got a couple villagers here on wood, and it looks like he's going to be building his mining camp right about now. So we could see some sort of fast castle age strategy from him. Maybe he'll go into night. There are a reasonable distribution of trees here, but this map is still somewhat tricky to defend despite the tree layout, especially, depending on where you spawn. Like, for example, teal is relatively open. I don't think I've actually seen a player dock yet. If there is a dock, it might be right here. No, those are just some palisade walls. The thing is with Texas is that the fish distribution is very unfair, so if red, ends up docking right here, he's going to miss out. There's almost no fish in the specific area, but if he docks here, around the tip, there's actually a ridiculous distribution of fish, so... Texas is one crazy, bizarre map. Sneaky Sandwich says, hey Rez, are you ever going to host an 1800 plus diplomacy game? If you guys want to, by all means, move to suggestions, but I get the feeling with something like that, and some people tell me that if I'm going to, cast a 1800 plus free-for-all or something like that, I might as well just be casting expert games. Because one of the reasons why people seem to really enjoy these, lower mixed-rated matches is that these players know enough about the game that it's not a snooze fest, but also... they're a loose cannon cop. They could do anything. You never know when someone's going to have a stroke and forget that it's actually King of the Hill, and you never know when you're going to see some bizarre builds and strategies. Welcome to stream, Assassin. And thank you so much for Cognac. I really, really appreciate that. We're doing a team game after this. Yes, Ducky Duck. Wonderful stay fan. Glad to hear it. So just played with a friend and was able to defend against hordes of enemies. Thanks for that. Alright, so it looks like red and green are our first players up to the feudal age. So we have the Ethiopians actually. I believe he was Malians and then he switched to Ethiopians. Now we have the green Huns up to the feudal age as well. Now, being the Ethiopians, this means that our red player over here did gain 100 food and 100 gold from advancing to the next age. And if you're looking for more information on all the African Kingdom civs, I have civ overviews on my YouTube channel for those, which you might be interested in. And I also have a video that explains, how balanced are the new civilizations, where I go over all the, the major balance changes, how the new civs fit into the metagame. Purple does not have Loom yet, which is pretty risky. He should know that Texas, of course, has historically been infested with jaguars and wolves, so he's going to have to watch out for that. This jaguar might be able to get the jump on him if he goes all the way to the edge of the map. With this extra 100 food and 100 gold, red actually will be able to get to the castle age relatively quickly, but I think that he's going to need an additional 50 gold. He skipped out on Loom. Actually, no, he didn't skip out on Loom. Oh, yeah, no, he didn't skip out on Loom. If he did skip out on Loom, he would actually be able to go to the castle age immediately, so You know, Red trying to play it on the safe side here, but now he's unfortunately going to have to build a mining camp, and he doesn't have enough resources for that market yet. So, you know, it just goes to show if you cut a couple of villagers and you try to go for some faster advancement as the Ethiopians, it can bite you in the butt. You are making a trade-off there. By cutting a couple of villagers, you might be able to get through the ages a little bit quicker with those extra resources, but you're going to have a weaker economy as a result. Sithwin says, what are your favorite civs have the, slash the ones that you have the most fun with? Well, if you check out my Steam group, I answered that in one of the Steam discussions. In no particular order, my favorite civilizations would be the Britons, Byzantines, and I guess the Magyars a little bit after that. I absolutely adore those civilizations. Well, Starlight Pinky, I can't keep everybody on my friends list, but we'll see if we can play a game sometime. And oh no! Well, it does look like he actually has Loom now, so Purple will be fine in this fight. He does manage to take down that Jaguar, and this is a fantastic place to put down the dock. Even though the water is shallow, the Great Fish Marlin does not care and is happy to hang around there. The docking situation on this map is definitely precarious. Hodder says, would you be potentially up for other kinds of games such as Wonder Race? I'm very pacifist. I don't think anyone would want to watch that, but I mean, maybe. Well, it looks like the action begins as our good friend Green is going to go straight into Orange's wood line. And Orange is a little bit slow to the feudal age. That's a lot of scouts here from our Huns player, partially, of course, due to the fact that his stables do work 20% faster. These villagers got to keep running. They're just standing there holding a pile of logs in their hands. They're like, "Me lord, do I have permission to go into the town center?" Oh, this poor guy, isolated, will actually survive. Well played, and it looks like this happens to the best of us, where one of your builders ends up on the wrong side of those houses. Green doing so much economic damage to Orange, absolutely on fire. Orange is going to need a barracks and a handful of spearmen. That would stop this entire scout rush in its tracks. All he needs to do is build a barracks and make a couple of spears, but he doesn't, and these villagers are idle. He has two options here. You either build a barracks and make some spearmen, or you fight back these villagers. And it looks like Orange is fighting back now, but he's lost so many villagers. Almost everything is idle. This might be the fastest player death I've ever seen in a free-for-all. He has 1,000 food, but he can't gather anything else. These scouts actually don't have any upgrades, so Orange could be fighting back with his own villagers if he wanted. Hello, Song of the Dragon, welcome, and indeed, Delta. Hello, mate, dude. You need a pacifist game where all we do is cut down trees and place farms in the map. I don't know, baby. Alright, the good news is that Orange will be reassigning some of his villagers to the wood line. As he says, no wood. Definitely a tragedy. He will not be able to build that barracks because he does not have enough wood to afford it. He has, some pretty stable food income due to the fact that he has 3 farms close to his town center. He has a bunch of fishing ships. He might actually lose a fishing ship to a scout, though, if he's not careful. And as soon as he can get down some spearmen, he will be in good shape. But that was a devastating scout rush from Green. So Green already asserting his dominance over his adjacent opponent, and Green will be transitioning, of course, immediately into archers. And one of the reasons why Green's going to do this is because he knows that food is one of the most important resources that you need to be able to get to the Castle Age. And if you stay in the Feudal Age for too long, then you're going to be at a very big technology deficit compared to your opponents. It'll be very difficult to deal with things like knights, for example, if you're still in the Feudal Age, because spearmen need to be pikemen first before you can really deal with those, and you don't have access to things like monks or camels, for example. Huns, of course, don't get camels. So what I'm saying, basically, is that Green is going to want to get to the Castle Age relatively soon. And if he's constantly making scouts, then that's going to be a big drain on his food. It's going to cost him a whopping 80 food per scout, and he's actually nowhere near the Castle Age because of that. So one of the things that we see players do a lot is they'll start transitioning into archers. And this is good for 2 reasons. One, because you don't need as much gold to actually get to the Castle Age. The real obstacle is, of course, the food. And also, once you get to the Castle Age, you can immediately upgrade all those archers into crossbow, which is a very cost-efficient, powerful upgrade that can turn games around, whereas light cavalry, generally speaking, isn't as impactful. So this allows you to get that critical mass of crossbowmen out a little bit sooner, and then if you have enough of them, you'll be able to deal with knights by actually just killing them before they get to you. So that's why we see archers so commonly. And it looks like a watchtower is going to come down from Orange. Now, this will actually help him, reasonably protect his wood line, but the watchtower is not fantastic against the scouts, since the scouts have some degree of pierce armor, but it's alright. As long as he's repairing this palisade, so I like this quick wall off here, and he will be able to, discourage his opponent from actually attacking these palisades by having that watchtower there. So Orange, very much crippled, but not out of the game yet. Let's see. I think I missed someone's message. Hardstyle Strategist says, I haven't played AoE seriously in months. Any balance changes besides the new civs I should be aware of? Oh yeah, with African Kingdoms, we had quite a few balance changes, but again, I would recommend checking out the How Balanced Are the New Civilizations video on my YouTube page. You might find that useful. Now, by the time I post this on YouTube, the Feudal Wars Kickstarter will have already began, but Yeah, hopefully that goes well, as I guess I'll be talking in the future. I'm very excited for Feudal Wars. I think a lot of people, I guess, don't... Whoa, that was loud. Seem to be a little bit confused, but Kickstarter is essentially a thing to kickstart the development of your game, so to, you know, get the ball rolling. And the thing with Kickstarter is it uses like a all-or-nothing style model, so if we don't get enough funding to actually build this RTS game, then you get your money back. And I'm really looking forward to developing this. This is a big risk, and something I was really skeptical about at first, but I'm confident that Feudal Wars will turn out to be good and a lot of fun. So I guess by the time I post this on YouTube, I'm interested to hear what you guys think of the campaign thus far, and then what you think of the minigame, which I designed. Basically, for those of you who are not aware, I've been working with a small team of people to try and build an old-school RTS game on a modern engine, Feudal Wars, and I think it'll be really fun. And I'll be designing the gameplay and doing the community management for that. It's going to be pretty similar to Age of Empires 2. I'm looking forward to it. You can find some more information about that on my YouTube page, of course, if you're interested. Now, without fletching, actually, Green is going to have some trouble taking down these knights. I can't actually select that one knight because unit selection in this game is completely broken. They need to fix that. It always prioritizes the farm. It used to be the other way around and yield classic Aoe2. So I actually have no idea what upgrades he has. Okay, so he has Bloodlines and +1 defense. And with Bloodlines and +1 defense, that means that he's going to have some tanky knights. And without fletching, it's going to take a long time for Green to actually be able to kill those, so he's going to definitely want fletching really soon, and he does have a blacksmith for it. He will need more gold miners, I think, if he wants to actually get to the Castle Age anytime soon. But he did successfully defend against that. He does have some palisade walls. He's not completely walled up, of course, but he's a lot safer now. Well, a couple of spearmen down for Orange will allow him to hold the line. As we can see, spearmen are a strict hard counter to scout cavalry, are able to clean those up with relative ease. It's going to be a pathing nightmare for this one villager in the outside. At least she's going to get plenty of cardio, and she'll have huge calves eventually by the end of this, but that's not going to be particularly efficient, as she will have to walk all the way around that. So if you check out the teams, it looks like Green's actually only on a team with Blue, which... I mean, Blue's not, like, geographically adjacent to him, so it's going to be kind of difficult to solicit help from this guy, but at least Blue will be able to gang up on Teal, and maybe, you know, Blue and Green combined will be able to take down Teal. I think that taking advantage of players who might, you know, like actually taking advantage of making alliances with players who are a little slower is actually very important in these games, because in many cases, you know, those players that are very far behind won't be in a position where they can actually win the game, but you're probably going to need them to turn the tides of the game, just give you just a little bit more momentum to hold the center for a couple more years and win the game. The Diaper says, what would you suggest is the S-tier civ for Texas? You know, I've watched a lot of competitive Age of Empires 2, but I can safely say I don't think I've seen any expert 2K-rated Age of Empires 2 Texas gameplay, so I'm not 100% sure what the ideal Texas metagame would be, but I assume it involves a little bit more docking than what we've seen here, as, of course, fishing is a huge boost to your economy. Essentially, you know, having a dock in the early game is like having another town center producing villagers for you, and it's a huge source of food. So while it is an initial, you know, wood sink, it does pay off very, very quickly, and Orange should probably reassign his fishing ships to some fish. I think that's giving, you know, actually Purple and Red a pretty significant boost to their economy, but this dock is a little bit unfortunately positioned. Crusader Logan says, do you know if there will be different civs in Feudal Wars or a single generic civ? Oh, there will be absolutely different civs in Feudal Wars. Again, it's very early in development, so, you know, you can consider me Mr. Community Feedback. And we can help build this game together. The whole point of Kickstarter is to get the ball rolling. Not to just, I guess, compensate us for a finished product. It's to actually build the product. So, we're going to have several different civilizations, a very similar system to Age of Empires 2. On the Kickstarter, we'll have like the list of the starting civs. I believe we're going to start with 6. And then just expand and add on more from there. So we're going to have basically a similar system to Age of Empires 2, but the civs will be a little bit more differentiated than Aoe2. So they won't be like as cookie cutter, but they'll still be similar enough, and we can just keep adding on from there. I believe we start with 6. Well. So it looks like every player here is just trying to wall up at this point. And if we swap over to Teal's perspective, the kind of juice, he is allies with Purple and Blue. So this is an interesting thing, is that Green is enemies with Teal, but Blue is allied with both of these people. So that's where the chaos begins. Every player here just content to wall up, play it safe, and there are still a couple of players who are in the Feudal Age, despite it being 28 minutes into the game. This is probably just something a little bit wrong with the priorities here, I think. Perhaps the resource distribution just a little bit off. And yes, I think that yellow does recognize that he probably has way too many lumberjacks. If we take a look at his, wood count is ridiculously high compared to the rest of this. So he is assigning a lot of his villagers onto food, recognizing that is his lowest resource. Getting a hang of how many villagers you should have on a resource is something that's tricky and will take a lot of practice to master. But the general idea is that, well, if you're yellow in this case, right, and you have 2k wood and you really need some more food, then you probably have too many lumberjacks and you can just reassign those onto food. See ya, King Fabu. Stefan says, when will the Kickstarter actually start? Keep your eyes peeled on YouTube, but it's February 15th. And I hope that you guys are as excited as I am for it. I think there have been a lot of, misunderstandings of Kickstarter. Like, it uses an all or nothing model, so if the game doesn't get funded, then the game doesn't get funded and you get your money back. And Kickstarter is to start development. I mean, a lot of people tell me that, oh, Resonance, Feudal Wars is a really cool idea. I'm glad that you're taking a risk here and getting involved. But, this game, you only have a demo. Talk to me when it's finished. And the whole point of Kickstarter is to actually make it finished, so hopefully that makes sense in some way. But on the actual game itself, I'll make a post about that when that actually happens. Players are actually not fighting each other right now. I'm a little bit curious as why everyone is taking so much time to sit back and relax, because the clock is ticking, and I can't help but feel that players with a stronger ability to manage their economy, this definitely favors them. So by letting Teal just boom up behind the safety of his own walls, he's the Malians. He's a very scary late game dude. His ridiculous tech tree in which he has access to a wide variety of units, critical ones such as gunpowder units, for example. And then he also has his very strong infantry line. Malians are a tough civilization to deal with in the late game if they're firm to cavalry too. Not really sure if we should be letting Teal boom up, as he already has control of the center monument, a huge score lead. By not attacking him now and giving him the necessary space, it's going to be really difficult for the rest of these players to actually take him down later. And the clock is ticking, so we're down to 200 years, so players will have to fight each other sooner or later, regardless of whether or not they want to. And meanwhile, it looks like green is moving out, would like to finish orange. Moose says, will your game have cars that shoot? All the best RTS games have that. I completely agree with you, and I'd be happy to do a cheat code like that or something like that. This is the fun thing, is that since I'll be collecting feedback from you guys and designing the gameplay and whatnot, that, we can have car cheats or whatnot. I would love to have a car that shoots bullets at people. I'm sure we could do that. The cheat codes are some of the most iconic things about Age of Empires 2, and oh my goodness, this is absolutely devastating. So what can Orange do to possibly... Alright, he's fucked. Oh, that's no moon, that's a castle. That sucks for Orange. I was about to say, one of the only ways to deal with this, and why I actually really like... God, Age of Empires 2 is such a good game. And when I do some... If Feudal Wars gets funded, I'd be happy to do some devlogs where I just fanboy about why Age of Empires 2 is so good, and it's not just nostalgia. This game is so disgustingly well designed, it's great. The only thing that holds it back, of course, is the absolutely god-awful multiplayer, netcode and everything, the lobby system, but the gameplay kicks ass. So there are little comeback mechanics in Age of Empires 2. So Orange, assuming that Red didn't want to kill him with a castle right here, he would actually be... You'd have a chance, because what he can do is he can build a mangonel, which is definitely what Orange was thinking. So good call there. You build a mangonel, and you can trade like 1 for 20 with your opponent's crossman if you micro it well. It's a comeback mechanic that your opponent can actually interact with, and because the mangonel deals area of effect damage, it's absolutely wonderful in those situations. And if mangonels weren't in the game, it'd be really difficult to come back against a player who reaches that critical mass of range units where they can just sort of like start one-shotting your knights and your elite skirmishers. They can sort of bypass that combat triangle entirely, so that's where something like a mangonel really comes in. And your opponent actually has counterplay. They can dodge the mangonel shots. I love that. If you aim it really well, it actually gives you an opportunity to build back into the game. And oh my god, it sucks to be Orange right now. If I switch to his perspective, he is only allied with purple and blue. Well, he better be calling in the life support right now, as half his economy is idle. Green is pouring in the crossbows and the cavalry archers. Green doing what a lot of people do, which is transition from crossbows into cav archers if they're the Huns. Major Danube says, I think Feudal Wars has great potential. Basically, it could be the Aoe2 that Microsoft would be if Microsoft took proper care of the game. Thank you so much, Major Danube. That's the hope. That's the hope. Well, it'll essentially be the spiritual successor to Age of Empires 2 that we've all been waiting for. The Aoe2 HD that we deserve. Not directly, of course. It would not. But, yeah, it would basically be that. Is Orange allied with anyone? That is what Fox Squirrel asks. Yeah, so he's allied with blue and purple. And, well, it looks like Red has a lot of military units here that he is going to have to be really careful about. I'm actually really curious as to how many of these he's actually going to mass up before he goes in. I guess one of the things that he's a little bit weary of is that he has Shoto Warriors, which actually have no Pierce Armor, very, very low HP. So, well, unfortunately, they're pretty bad against these mass ranged units. I like these focus firing in the crossbow because the cavalry archers will be able to kite him back, and this way he'll be able to deal with the remove as much damage from this army comp as physically possible. This is not necessarily ideal micro, as I think green is taking a lot of hits for free, but I don't really think that matters, as he will still be able to clean up that army with these. H118 asks, how many players are the real world maps designed for? I'm not entirely sure, but I believe 8, but they're very cramped and really, really obnoxious to play. Silly games. Sorry, Nicholas says, have you played, hey Rez, have you played Spirit of the Law's new Roman Empire scenario? No, I have not, but as soon as I get some free time, I'd love to check it out. It looks very fun, very polished. Hello, Sturm Führer Stalin. Nemdegas says, in the beta of Feudal Wars, there's only gold paying system. Will someday be more resources? Absolutely. This is called a demo, Nemdegas, and I think I answered your question on YouTube, I think. Not sure if I did. I might not have, so that's my bad. But I did see your comment, Nemdegas. It's a demo. We're gonna have 4 resources. We're gonna have 4 resources. I think a lot of people look at the demo and they like interpret it as like, if this is what the final game is going to be like the unit pathing is, the unit pathing is shit. There's no UI. There's only gold. What's up with the graphics? And the point is, this is a tech demo, if that makes any sense. But regardless, it looks like one of the ways that Red could deal with this, of course, is the Siege Workshop of Zona, and he does have one, actually. I think Shoto Warriors are a great unit to open up with, and he's actually in the Imperial Age now. The thing is though, they just perform very poorly against this mass-mounted army of green, so Red's taking a lot of damage. He has a stable, but he actually has, like, no food, and oh my goodness, this economy management. Red's in a really rough spot because he's 3,000 wood and he's not able to actually farm these farms safely. He could be almost dead in essence, and right now, blue building up. Teal has a huge army of cavalry, and this is what I was talking about. When you let the Malians get huge, he's got the Farimba upgrade. That's 12 plus 7 attack on this Cavaliers. Not nearly as strong as Paladins, but it's something that you can get out a little bit sooner than Paladins. It allows Malians to have that early Imperial Age power spike, and then beyond that, they can start focusing very hard on the infantry side of things. This is going to be really, really crazy. Poor Orange, I have to say. He's got like no economy whatsoever. Positioned, unfortunately, rather poorly in the map spawn. He basically has to find an ally that is willing to accept him, and then he has to kind of just merge in on there. Merge in there like a cell devouring another cell. He just has to become the blob. Oh, but I'm not sure if anyone actually wants to accept him. Meanwhile, Teal moving out, that kind of juice, if we swap to his perspective here, he's going to be going straight for Green's throat. Not sure why he's going straight for Green, perhaps on behalf of Blue, who's tired of this alliance. Couple Spearmen here to defend, so Green's got the right idea, but without some upgrades, it's going to be really tricky to deal with this Farimba cavalry. This is going to be a devastating attack, but this castle is positioned pretty well, and I don't think Teal will be able to stop the construction in time. He will not. And if there's myrtle holes here, this might actually stop this Cavalier spam right in its tracks, but Green will still experience a lot of economic damage here, as he's going to have a lot of idle time in this town center. One thing that I don't think is necessarily understood that well by a lot of newer players is this concept where you don't necessarily have to kill your opponent's villagers to do a lot of damage to their economy, but rather all you have to do is make them not gather. So when you do something like a 3 militia drush, by forcing your opponent's villagers to actually fight your militia, they're not gathering any resources, so they might as well be dead, essentially. All those villagers inside that town center, not doing anything, a huge blow to Green's economy. He's going to start running out of cash at a rapid rate. Speaking of running out of cash, though, wow, actually, Teal is very, very low on gold. And yes, this is exactly what I was talking about. Notice how the players who are under attack are very much running low on food. And this is something where I feel like a dock making a lot of fishing ships would have really been helping Green at this point in the game, as he unfortunately does not have access to a stable, safe supply of food that his opponent is not able to contest. Song the Dragon says, will there be unique ways to generate resources, something like Star Wars Barn that generates food, or maybe more unique structures? That's something that we'll be considering and iterating out over time, so I'm always open to your ideas, Saga, but we're working on it. I'm open to your ideas, but I feel like, buildings that generate unique resources like the Feitoria are probably very difficult to balance, and we generally either have to give them to all civs or no civs. I feel like if you make them too efficient, and that they're almost as efficient as villagers, then they are really overpowered and oppressive, and players will just be making them non-stop. If you make them too weak, then they're only good in a very small set of scenarios, and I'm not sure if I want any civ having that sort of power over their opponent where they constantly generate resources. One of the things that makes Age of Empires 2 such a good game is something that Day 9 discusses. This idea of having like sort of natural systems in your RTS game to encourage players to actually interact and engage with each other. Because I think it's really easy to accidentally design an RTS game in which players just don't feel like fighting. They just want to sit in their corner and they want to res farm. I'll play their little farming simulator. How do you actually get players to fight? This is where Aoe2 does a really good job at this. Now, obviously, this is the worst possible map for this example, but there's this idea of, all resources are finite. For the most part, and obviously exceptions like relics, but you're gonna have to constantly be moving out to riskier locations. Your base is harder to defend as time goes on, as you need to secure more wood, you need to secure a new forest, a new gold mine, etc. Players are naturally encouraged to interact with each other because they have to, they have to move out and their resources aren't renewable. If you could replant trees, I think Age of Empires 2 would be a very defensive game. And it actually works out almost perfectly in that it encourages players to push out, but it also gives them some space in the early game. So, if we gave something like a Feudal style thing, it would have to be... I'm not really sure that... There's not that much counterplay, I guess, for your opponent either. Because that's the thing, like, if I move to the middle of the map and I want this gold mine... Thank you so much, Fosmo Official, for the resub. Much appreciated. If I move to the center and I try to snag this gold mine, my opponent can, punish me by actually, killing my gold miners. But with a Feudal, you're sort of raid-proof. So I'm not really a huge fan of it, but I'm open to it. Nothing is off the table, but we'll see. Hello, Shark! TK do you watch Day 9 TV? Yes, Day 9 is like my idol, man. He is so cool. And I had the opportunity to actually meet him in person, TK, at BlizzCon 2015. And oh god, he's even cooler and nicer in person than I thought. He's actually always like that. It's not a persona. It's amazing. He's such a nice guy, and yeah, I aspire to be as cool as him. Davey says, I love Day 9's explanation of army movement. Why is your army moving to attack your enemy's expansion? To defend your third expansion. Indeed. Well, if we check out the timer in the center of the map, there appears to have been a little bit of a blunder here. I haven't been paying that much attention to it, but Purple actually had control of the center and monument, and he lost it by just not having any units there. So Blue just walked in and just reset it. I feel like if Purple had his army, somewhat closer there, he's a little bit more confident, he might have been able to win the game, as I think everybody just sort of forgot for a moment that this was King of the Hill, as players do from time to time. This is one of my ways of trying to force players in a free-for-all to interact with each other. That way they don't sit in the corner. Oh, man. And just trying to attrition everybody down. Teal! Oh, God, he just hates green. He's going to keep spamming in those Furimba Cavaliers. This is actually very difficult for the Hans player to deal with, not having access to camels, not being, only being in the Castle Age. Without access to Halberdier, I think that green's basically dead. And I wonder what Teal's really banking on here, and I also really wonder why Purple just ceded control to Blue. I can't help but feel like that's gonna bite him in the butt later, as if he doesn't win this game, he was in a position where he almost could have. So the Super Alliance here are Teal, Blue, and Purple. They're all on a team together. They're all on a team together, posturing around the middle of the map. And I like these castles here. Like, Purple is prepared. He's ready to flip the switch at a moment's notice and just double-cross everybody and win the game. The clock is ticking. Blue he has a small army. He is in the Imperial Age, thankfully. He has a small army, getting all of his upgrades in the right order. I like to see this. Onagers, I think, will be excellent here. Well... Actually, no, they'll be terrible. See, Onagers are really good against a mass amount of any units. The thing is in, like, HD, the counter system can be a little bit wonky, because unipathing is so bad in this game that, honestly, you can use Onagers to kill the entire army of Boyars, which should not be possible. This emphasis on siege weapons would be very good against a player like Green, who likes to mass his archers. Thank you, Starlight Pinky, for the sub. I appreciate it. But the thing is that Blue is surrounded by... Okay, so when you're looking at your opponents, right, like, he's allied with Teal. He's gonna have to fight Teal and Purple at some point. What do these guys have? Well, Blue knows what they have. We go to Sunny's perspective. Yeah, like, he knows what units they have. What do you see here? Boyars, light cavalry, hussar type units, a bunch of Malian cavaliers. Really, like, the siege weapons don't make any sense here. Blue is going to have to fight his immediately adjacent opponents at some point, and the siege weapons, while they're generally going to be really good as a way to, hold the center hill against all those massed units, are gonna not really do anything here at all. Now, let me see. I think I missed a couple things in chat. Awesome, TK. Sonic the Dragon says maybe there can be neutral structures. If you capture it, generates a resource over time. That could be a really cool idea, Sonic the Dragon. And the thing is, man, is I am 100% open to these ideas. I don't want to make the game like... Okay, so I think one common criticism we'll get with Feudal Wars is that it's either too similar to Aoe2 or it's too different. And it's going to be really difficult to get that right, and someone's going to complain in one way or another. But that's something I'm paying attention to, and I don't know if I want to make it too different. But I think something like that could fit in sort of naturally. We could have like some sort of sapper engineer style unit that could capture neutral structures or something. It could work. This is a bizarre army comp. I'm not really... Like, the halberdiers make sense to me as a way to deal with, because his teammates are just making nothing but cavalry. And it's a 33 years remaining, so his opponents better do something. These scorpions, onagers, I can't help but feel that they don't really fit into this comp. So right now, poor Orange still very much crippled. No space to build. Normally this is when I would suggest building multiple town centers, but, you know, he has 2. It's going to be really difficult for him to actually build more. And I hope players are watching because it's 26 years remaining. And Blue has switched ownership for no reason. Is he not ready to... Is not ready to switch teams yet? I know that they're allied, baby, but they shouldn't be. I know that... Guys, I know that Blue is allied with everybody, but... I don't know, they both had an opportunity to win. I'm surprised that they're staying friends with each other for this long. And there we go! Aha! Purple has finally double-crossed Blue. This is what I thought would happen, you know, quite a while ago, but these two are so very patient. What wonderful neighbors, actually. You know, swapping control of the center monument with each other for free. Consider me surprised. I would not have abandoned control of the center like this. And in fact, I really think that that decision will lose Blue the game. When Purple did it earlier, I think he has a strong enough lead that he might be able to get away with it, although I would like to see some different units from him. He's going to struggle a lot, I think, against these mass Byzantine halberdiers, which are very cheap. Champions here could be excellent, perhaps. I say that, though, these halberdiers will be mowed down by these castles. Very low pierce armor on those halberdiers. Walking straight underneath the castle, it will actually not be that effective, and the Boyar does have pretty strong melee defense, so he will be able to survive there. I'm just surprised that Blue backed off. Perhaps that was his only opportunity, because he's at a military deficit right now. And, well, it looks like Teal is actually going to switch his stance to enemy with Purple, but Purple has not switched it back. And this is what I thought. Like, these guys are friends, but only for a brief period. As immediately as Purple saw those bombard towers going down, he immediately flipped the switch. He's like, nah, I saw the last free-for-all that Resonance did with all those bombard towers. I know what's going on here. Nice try, Case, honey. He did immediately switch stances to enemies. I like that a lot of the players in this game are being kind of conservative with their gold, because they know that, you know, trade isn't necessarily a guaranteed thing on a map like this, as, you know, you never know how long your alliance is actually going to last, so by making a lot of trash units, hopefully you can sort of bleed your opponents out. As, you know, Teal's been very liberal with his money, and as a result, you know, he has a pretty solid lead, but over time he's going to run out of cash. The thing is, though, is the Purple's actually out of gold as well. He'd probably need a couple more farmers. He's getting ganged up on now, 2-on-1, and this is a good call here from Teal, of course, because if he didn't actually intervene, then Purple would have absolutely won the game there. Elder Safe says, don't know why my donation didn't show up. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes Twitch alerts doesn't display it for some reason, Elder Safe. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about that. Welcome up, Jimmy. Always good to have you. Hello, Prince Reborn. Elder Safe, how much did you donate? And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'll check that out later, man. Well, that castle's going down. 50 years remaining, and actually Purple is able to hold the line 2v1 against these guys. Yellow, by the way, isn't like the worst position geographically. Like, there's no way you can actually contest the center. This map is ridiculous. I did this at your guys' request because I thought it was really funny, but now I'm beginning to see, you know, I could make a top 10 reasons why Texas is the worst designed map in the game. But that's why it's so fun to watch. This map is absolutely awful. As poor Green, not only is he almost dead, but yeah, he's so far away from the map, he has to walk from the center of the map, he has to walk past other players. It's very difficult for him to actually contest it. So it's really going to boil down to these 3 giants. So at some point when Yellow gets a little bit uppity and he actually makes some military units, which he should really make some military units, he's running out of time. He could easily kill one of these players and flip the game on its head. Wait, did the timer just reset even though Purple has military units? Ah, God, he should have just... Yeah, it did. If he deployed his trebuchets just a little bit further forward, he would have been in the clear. In the clear! Oh my goodness. Absolute disaster. I generally see a lot of players forgetting that it's King of the Hill and just ignoring it entirely, and here we just see mispositioning of units, not putting them, you know, close enough. Players are constantly ceding control of the center of the hill, even though they actually have control of the center of the hill. Look at these two guys being friends. That's so cute. Houses within houses. As a result, I think Purple is done. There goes his bid for the center row. Here comes the Malian champions. How do you beat this infantry spam when they have this much pierce armor? They're like Huskarls without the downside, really, of being Goths, in a way. So how do you deal with this? Generally speaking, your own champions, because the Malians don't get access to Blast Furnace, which means your champion, and again, they only have more pierce armor, not melee armor. So with your own champions, you will be able to deal with the enemy champions relatively easily, deal with halberdiers. It's still pretty close, and the Malians are a massive pain in the ass, so it's one way to deal with it. And thankfully, the Slavs do get excellent champions, so would like to see something like that. As the halberdiers here, I think he's just making them because he has no money. Poor Blood Raven, his economy probably a little bit too weak. He is close to enough villagers, I think, but he's running out of money. He's getting ganged up on. I think that, honestly, there goes Purple's bids at winning the game. So if only he positions those trebuchets just a little bit further forward. Absolute disaster. Is going to lose control of the center. And now, teal and blue are eventually going to have to fight each other for control of the center of the map. So many trebuchets. All those castles from purple. There's no way he's going to recover from this. And after pulling that fast one on blue, I don't think they're actually going to let him survive. So he will be one of the first casualties of the game. Meanwhile, orange finally got out of his decade-long stay in the hospital from his full body cast. He has mostly recovered. He finally checked out today. And boom, back to the hospital he goes. I think orange is... Oh, God, it's just... He's been having a rough game, I'll tell you. The last thing he needs is more Shotel Warriors. And I'm not really sure why red is bothering to kill orange besides the novelty. I mean, I guess on one hand, you're making sure that there's just one less player to contest you in the late game, but that's not where I would have gone. I would have probably contested the center or something, or killed a scarier player. As orange and green took so much damage early on, it's going to take a long time for them to recover. So I don't think that either of them are necessarily in a position to win the game anytime soon. And the players that are would be like teal and blue. So I probably would have just been poking at teal, as teal's going to be someone who's really going to contest the middle. Expertium says purple's done no resources. Yeah, he's in a lot of trouble. Speaking of no resources, let's check out K Sunny's 6,000 food. Probably needs more unit production facilities, as he's only at 84 population. Yeah, maybe some stables to spam. No, I was going to say Hussars would be a good source of food, but at the same time makes no sense against these halberdiers, so... him making his own halbs and skirms is fine. He's going to have to make more villagers. His pop is very low. You want about half the max population of the game to be villagers. Jesus. So many bodies. I think the most important thing you could do to improve your level of play is just to make sure that your town center is always working until you have half the max population of the game as villagers, so... This means that your town center should always be making villagers, researching attack, or advancing the next age, until you have about, 100 plus. Then I think you're solid. The idea is you want enough villagers to constantly sustain troop production, and it looks like we're experiencing some res lag. Aoe2 HD has frozen. Looks like one player in this game has lost connection to another player, but thankfully the game did not go out of sync, and it's going to continue. Meanwhile, so teal, as we can see, is clearly betrayed blue, so... He is making a desperate bid to 2v1 his two closest allies, his best friends. Try and hold the center. Can he hold it for 40 years? He's a very small military, and blue has a lot of money in the bank. I actually think that blue and purple combined will be able to take teal down. I don't think teal necessarily has enough population to hold this. It's going to be really close. I would love to see, maybe keeping a ram near the monument, maybe moving this treb up a little bit more. That way control doesn't accidentally switch again. And meanwhile... Yellow's making his first military units. He's gonna win this game, guys. You wait and you see. The Diaper asks, how to win in King of the Hill when getting raided so hard as green and orange in this one. Make allies with... make strategic allies with people. Try your best to build back up. And when your opponents have sufficiently underestimated you and they've killed each other, they've weakened each other enough, that's when you come in at the last minute and you can try and steal it from them. But basically, you just try and make friends with your adjacent... players and then build back to the best of your abilities. This is going to be close. Teal has control. He has 28 years remaining and a very high score. Alright, Yellow, it is time. It is time to move out. Thank you so much, Anorexic Hobbit, for the sub. Much appreciated. Got quite a few new subs today. Thank you so much, guys. I might actually be able to get new emotes this year at this rate. I thought it'd be a long time from now. Red's going the wrong way, by the way. The hill is not here. It's not King of Green. It is King of the Hill. Oh, my friend, Zayton Clang, this is not the castle you were looking for. The big building that wins the game is over here. Turn to the left if you want to win, otherwise teal is gonna actually win this game. Oh god, I see this every single time, and it never gets old, never gets old. Why go for green? Green's not gonna win the game. The clock is ticking, my friend. 15! There we go, orange is like, red, look at the timer, thank god. Orange, the one voice of reason. The oldest eagle known to man. He's seen some shit in his time, and red's like... Still going for the farms. Is that GG? Really? Really? And yellow is finally moving out. But alas, my friends. Actually, yellow might get a couple units to the center of the map before the game's actually over. And whoa, red just finally remembered. He's like, alright, 5 years remaining. It's my time to shine. That's enough time, Mrs. Puff. I can make up those points. He's moving in. He's sending in the 8 to 10 Shotel warriors. But right now, teal with an absolutely commanding victory here. Absolute disaster for almost every player in this game. Teal wins 1v2 as the rest of the players in this game forgot what they were fighting for. Disaster. GG, well played. Congratulations, Teal. It never gets old. It never gets old. It's called King of the Hill. Oh, man. This is why I always remind players before the game starts, like, remember, guys, pay close attention to the timer. Like, I always remind people at the start of the game. I was like, remember, if there's 100 to 50 years remaining, you have to act now, otherwise your army won't make it in time. There's no way teal would have won, I swear, if red and yellow actually sent their armies a little bit sooner. I know that yellow is obviously a newer player, and he wanted to take his time to actually build up his army. And he did finally get one, and he tried sending it. But, oh, poor red running to the wrong guy, killing poor permitted zebra over there, which was not in a position to actually win the game. Disaster! But red, blue, and teal... purple, blue, and teal were trying their best to fight each other, and... You know, I actually wondered, I don't think teal would have won if either blue or purple, the first time they actually had the hill, if they didn't accidentally cede control to each other, because, like, teal was very busy with green, so... I actually wonder if they could have won the game there. So that's the wonderful thing about these King of the Hill games, is, like, you never know. I would have never expected control to just randomly swap over between these guys, but they're really good friends. Alright, GG, well played. Congratulations, that kind of juice, the Teal Malians player, for taking down the competition. Synthone asked, did yellow even kill any units? He killed 7, my friend! 7! Never gets old. Obviously not all of my King of the Hill games are like this, but I figure, like, every now and then, I figure every now and then, you just need something profoundly stupid like this to really mix it up. Oh man, everyone tried their best to take down teal, but the thing is that he was focused firing down some players like green in the early game. That way, you know, he would have less competition. And then as soon as the timer's getting a little bit too low, teal immediately shifts 100% of his attention to the center, which is what he definitely should have done. I think that if everybody actually attacked teal a little bit sooner, then I think they would have been fine. Purple, though, had a very good KD, I think. Some very strong unit choices overall. I think that blue would have been more successful, too, if his army comp was a little bit different. I don't think the Onagers and Scorpions didn't really make sense to me. I think they would have been excellent if he was playing, you know, if he's actually fighting, for example, that Japanese army or that Hun army. Even the Shotel warriors, very weak to Scorpions due to their low, non-existent Pierce armor. It basically means that I feel like Blue's army comp was very anti-archer. He had some halberdiers in there, which is fantastic against his cavalry units, but I would have liked to see, you know, him building an army that was a counter to his teammates' armies, because he was bound to fight them initially, and he had cartography, so he knew what units they were going to have. Just a bunch of, like, heavy camels, halberdiers, I think would have been excellent there. And then he can transition to something like hand cannoneers. But obviously he ran out of money at some point, so eventually you have to start making halberdiers and skirms and whatnot, and then things get a little bit dicey against the Malians, who are able to spam very strong halberdiers that are not weak at all to skirms. Indeed, next time, Case Sunday, but you put up a really good fight. I think it was very funny that when you put down those bombard towers, purple was immediately like, not in the building plan. Oh man. GG, well played. Orange actually with 185 trade profits, so not bad. Making the big bucks. Making the big bucks. And he actually had a higher research count than green. What a twist. So one thing that does warm my heart here is that almost every player in this game did have more than 100 villagers. I like to see this, as I do think it's the most important thing you can do to win games. And so if you have a stronger economy, then you can just outproduce your opponent and eventually just, you know, bleed them dry and win the game. I think that red probably had too few villagers. Orange obviously has a very valid excuse for not having as many villagers, as he didn't really have any room to put town centers, and he lost most of his base several times. But yeah, I think that everybody had a very acceptable amount of villagers in this game, so that's good to see. You can see the relic gold is essentially free. You only have to build a monastery and 1 monk, so everyone got a pretty good return on that. And the longer the game goes on, the more that actually pays off. So yes, GG well played. Was a funny game. Texas doesn't seem like a particularly fair map to play King of the Hill free-for-all on, but I guess King of the Hill free-for-all is never necessarily fair. Alright, well, let me know, guys, if you have any ideas for future settings, and yeah. Okay, so if you enjoyed watching this video, then don't forget to check the rest of the stuff on my YouTube channel. If you're watching live on Twitch, I have a link to my YouTube page below, so you can just scroll down. Live streaming schedule also on my Twitch page underneath the video player, so head on over there, scroll down a little bit, you should be able to see it. I update that about every day, so keep your eyes peeled. If you're looking for more Age of Empires 2 content or videos for other games, then you're in the right place. And as always, I do read all your comments, even if you don't get a chance to respond to each of them individually. Thank you so much for your support. As always, it means a lot to me. And don't go anywhere, we'll be right back after the break. In about 2 minutes, we'll be jumping into the next game of the live stream, so stay tuned, stay tuned. Another game is on the way. GG, well played. See you here, the Pixel. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.